Alright, what's going on everyone? Look at this, we have the Crimson Vow teaser, Mark Rosewater's Crimson Vow teaser. He always releases these, if you're not familiar. It's just a little teaser, gives us lots of like information, little teasers, right? Little hints at cards that will be coming up. Unfortunately, he releases these like 2 or 3 days before preview season starts, so we don't have much time to do this. We don't have much time to make this video, but we'll go over these really quick, take a look at what's going on, see if we can make some predictions about what we're going to be seeing. So first off, we have lots of counters. We have Bloodline counters, Croak counters, Invitation, Judgment, Omen, Slime, and Suspect counters. That's a lot of counters. You know, we could kind of guess what some of these are, like Bloodline. I could imagine Bloodline being like a counter that kind of transfers from creature to creature, right? Like maybe a creature has a Bloodline counter, which gives it +1/+1. And then when it dies, it passes on that Bloodline counter. Suspect, I would imagine like Suspect counters eventually cause something to be sacrificed, right? Like we suspect this thing of being evil or whatever, and if it gets too suspect, it dies. Omen counters, that could be like summoning a demon of some kind. We have a new mechanic that removes something never removed before. So this could be anything. Looking through, there's 478 counters, or 478 cards that remove stuff. I thought it'd just be like a generic remove all counters, but that already exists. But something's gonna remove some kind of counter. Maybe it's just removing one of these. Like technically, removing one of these counters has never been removed before because they didn't exist before. But who knows? Next, we have a popular and powerful creature card from an Innistrad set gets reprinted. So I have Innistrad sets here. Sorted by price, just to get a rough idea of their popularity, right? Because if a card is powerful and popular, chances are it's expensive. So, lots of choices here, right? Craterhoof, Behemoth, Machias, Snapcaster Mate Avacyn. I don't think that's going to happen because it's, you know, for story purposes, that can't happen. Huntmaster of the Fells, Gravecrawler. I think Gravecrawler, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's like $20. That would be nice. These are the original Innistrad cards. In Shadows over Innistrad, we have like Emrakul, Relentless Dead, Gazella. The legendaries creatures probably can't. So not much here. We could also sort by EDH the rank. So we get like Blood Artist, that's possible. Mentor of the Meek. These are less exciting, right? Like these two cards. Mentor of the Meek, Blood Artist, not exciting because they're not expensive, but is Mentor of the Meek expensive? I don't think it is. It's $1, so not really. But maybe it's those. This, if we sort by EDH, we get Tireless Tracker would be nice. Thalia is pretty cool. The Get Wrong Monster, how much is that right now? It's $5. I mean, that'd be fine, right? That'd be decent. So there's some stuff. Potentially those. We have a new artifact token along the lines of Clue, Food, and Treasure. So of course, Clue lets you draw, food gives you life, treasure gives you mana. So we're gonna have a new artifact like this. I thought maybe like a treasure or an artifact token that can be cracked for like +1/+1 counters would make sense. We also have a card that makes red dragon illusion creature tokens. I think the most interesting thing here is that it's red dragon illusions. I would expect illusions to be blue, but just as a comparison, we have a bunch of stuff that adds illusions. First off, we have you know, again, they're all blue. So we're getting red illusions. White, there is one white card that adds illusions, but Murmuring Mystic notably produced birds. That was very popular in standard. Skyclave Apparition makes an illusion right now. But we're going to get red dragon illusions. I think it's going to be, in terms of power level, my expectation is something along this line, right? So this is 2 mana 2/2. It can make 5/5 red dragons, but it costs 5. You have to attack with a 2/2, so it dies in combat, right? So it does technically produce dragons, but it's expensive and it's vulnerable in combat. But this has been like pretty good in draft and whatnot. And no, you could see something like, I would expect something of this power level, something that's gonna put out big dragon tokens, but you know, there's gonna be a catch that makes it not so crazy. Hopefully, maybe, we'll see. Next, we have a mechanic that first appeared as a faction mechanic returns. So I thought, I saw someone else mention this actually, so I guess I didn't technically think. Someone thought this and I agreed. It makes sense. Bloodthirst makes a lot of sense. It was originally a faction mechanic for Gruul and Ravnica sets. So, you know, Burning Tree, Gore Clan, you know, the Skargan, Gruul stuff. This is a faction mechanic. Bloodthirst is a Gruul faction mechanic, but it has been printed on vampires before, right? Like Vampire. It's also been printed on black and red cards. So Bloodthirst returning, a faction mechanic returning, makes a lot of sense if it's Bloodthirst, right? Next we have a new legendary creature card that combines 2 characters. So there's 2 ways to look at this. My first thought, which I think is probably incorrect, is something like Brazella. This is a pretty extreme example of 2 characters merging into 1 legendary creature. So if you're not familiar with this, the Eldrazi invaded Innistrad the last time we were there. So we had Gazella, we had Bruna, 2 angels, and they would merge into Brazella with all kinds of Eldrazi mutation. Very horrifying, but remember that this is a wedding set, right? It's a vampire wedding thing. I think that's the background story. So I'm expecting something more like this, right? There's a wedding, 2 characters get married, and we have a combo legendary thing like this. Again, we have this as well. But that's my expectation. Whoever's getting... I don't actually follow the story, so I don't know who's getting married in Crimson Vow. I just know it's centered around a vampire wedding of some kind. So whoever that is, I would expect those 2 to be on a card like this. Next, we have a new card that lets you cast certain cards off the top of your library. So we've been getting a ton of this lately. All of this, right? Conspicuous Snoop lets you cast goblins. Augur of Autumn lets you play lands. Garrick's Horde lets you cast creatures, stuff like this, stuff that lets you look at the top card and cast specific stuff. Mystic Forge lets you cast artifacts, right? So, something like all of these cards, this stuff has been very popular. If you look at the sets, this exploded in popularity like 2 or 3 years ago. Like, they just keep printing stuff like this. It's sort of like, there were some cards, I'll say it. Courser of Crufix, I believe, let you play lands. I don't know why it's not here. Future Sight is also like a very old card from Onslaught, actually, when I started playing. But for the most part, like a lot of these, Ravnica, M21, Strixhaven, World Spark, Midnight High, a lot of this stuff is new. It's kind of like this new thing that they keep doing where we can play stuff off top, and we're getting more of that. We have a new mechanic, which is a mirror of an already existing mechanic. So this is another one that I saw someone else mention that I think makes a lot of sense, and that's an inverse of Spectacle. So Spectacle, it reduces the cost. Like this costs 4, but it costs 2 if you can trigger Spectacle, which means that your opponent lost life. So the inverse of that, the mirror of that would be like if you gained life, reduce the cost. Like, this costs 5. But if you gain life, it costs 3. That'd be like a mirror of Spectacle. That would make sense in a vampire draining set, right? So I could see something like this. This could even be the returning mechanic. What if they returned both Spectacle as the returning mechanic? Is that a fact? It is a faction mechanic. This is a Rakdos faction mechanic. So in theory, they could bring back Spectacle as the returning mechanic, and then they make an inverted, mirrored life gain version of it as well. We'll see. Next, we have a legendary character returns, but is now a vampire. So this is tricky wording. So my first thought was, oh, this is going to be a legendary creature. So I don't have a tab for it because I was going to look for legendary creatures from the Innistrad sets, but it doesn't say creature. Notably, it says a legendary character. So it could be an old legend. People have said like Odric. I believe someone said that Cathilda, I'll put it on screen. This is a newish character. Was she in the original Innistrads? Apparently she got bit by a vampire in the story or something, so maybe it's just her. But also, like, it could be a planeswalker, because it says legendary character, not creature. That'd be kind of cool. We'll see about that, but it seems interesting. Next we have some rules text. So this is just this exact text that's going to be on a card. So we have choose a number between 0 and 13. Seems pretty typical. I don't know what it's going to do, but we'll choose a number and something's going to happen. I don't really have a guess here, but we have with a mana value less than or equal to the number of vampires you control. My best guess here is that it's probably going to be like a removal spell, like a destroy target creature if it has mana value less than or equal to your vampire count, right? So if you have 2 vampires, you can kill 2 or 1 drops. If you have 5 vampires, you can kill 5 drops and below. Stuff like that, right? The more vampires you control, the better the removal spell is. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually. Next we have, if it's red, you may cast it this turn. I am like 99% certain that this is the same card up here. A new card that lets you cast stuff off the top of your library. So my guess is, if it's red, you may cast it off the top of your library. So we're going to get a look at the top card. If it's red, you may cast it sort of card. Next we have zombies you control while flying. Not much to say here other than holy crap. Probably going to be good with the with the whatchamathings, the decaying zombies, right? The decaying zombies could now have flying potentially, so that's spooky. Next we have at the beginning of your upkeep, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. So this is something we've seen a couple of times here. So notably, these cards are very big for their cost, right? We have a 5 mana 8/8 with trampled haste. We have a 4 mana 6/6 flyer. But the drawback is opponents can sacrifice stuff and they get tapped, right? Like if your opponent sacrifices something, they tap the demon and it gets a +1/+1 counter. So I would expect something like this. I'm expecting a black card that's undercosted and very big, but the opponent's going to have the ability to sacrifice stuff to keep it tapped down, which honestly, both of these cards have been pretty decent. They haven't been like super top tier competitive, but they're pretty good. So I would expect something along those lines. Next we have Kraken, Leviathans, Octopus, and Serpents. So we've had these creatures get lumped together a lot. Well, not a lot. They've been lumped together a few times, but we're getting something, again, a Kraken, a Leviathan, something that's going to be caring about this, which is interesting because I don't associate these creature types with Innistrad. Let me just maybe check. Has there ever been a Kraken in like an Innistrad set? I don't know. No? So I don't know. That's weird. I just don't associate, I guess maybe Serpents are kind of like, but I just don't associate those creature types with Innistrad, so we'll see what that's about. That's interesting. Next, we have twice that many tokens are created instead. So, first off, this is very popular, right? Doubling season, branching evolution, right? Lots of like doubling stuff, anointed procession. All of this is very, very popular in Commander. These, because they're a little bit expensive and they kind of do nothing and constructed and competitive, but in Commander you have the extra time to kind of play these do nothing enchantments and then they just become explosive, right? Commander players love this sort of stuff just because you have that extra turn or two to play stuff like this. So we're getting another one of these. Notably, and I wouldn't count on this, but technically Parallel Lives has this exact text. Put twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. Obviously the wording's different now, it's created, but same thing, and it is an Innistrad card, and notably, if you're not familiar with this card, it's $44 now. How the heck did that happen? So Parallel Lives, it's an Innistrad card, it's a $44 card. It would be very nice if this was reprinted, but I wouldn't count on Wizards of the Coast like actually reprinting good stuff like this. They tend to put this stuff in master sets or secret lair drops, so it'd be nice to see this reprinted. I just wouldn't count on it. So next we have whenever a human you control dies. This is pretty typical, you know, just something that's going to trigger every time something dies, so humans specifically. Next we have equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. I don't know, but what's interesting is the fact that spirits and enchantments are being lumped together is kind of interesting. And then we have, then if you control exactly 13 permanents. So the fact that it's worded this way, then if you control exactly, I would expect this to be a spell, an instant or sorcery, right? Like a do something, and then if you control this many permanents, you get some extra bonus, like imagine a burn spell that's like 2 mana, deal 2 damage to anything, but then if you control 13 or more permanents, it deals 5 extra damage or something, right? So if you have that exact number, it's very powerful, and if you don't, it's kind of medium. I would expect something like that. And then we have the typical giant list of creature types. Human, Ranger, Werewolf seems pretty typical. Angel, Soldier as well. Zombie, Scorpion, I would expect to be like a common with Death Touch. We have Serpent Egg, Eye Horror. I would expect a small flying creature in either blue or black. These are legends. So we have a legendary human peasant. That's kind of interesting. We have a spirit warlock, a slug horror, a kraken horror, and 2 new vampire nobles. So we'd expect a lot of those, right? It is the vampire set. But yeah, there you go, guys. That is the list. We'll see how accurate I am. The previews start in a couple days. I'm recording this on the 26th. Hopefully I can get this out the same day. I'm hoping to edit this super quick, hopefully get it up in a few hours. So this will be going up in a couple days. We'll see how accurate my predictions were, what few I made, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.